Okay.
Okay. From the time that I was the littlest girl, and I guess I was 4, is the earliest that I remember. Uncle Fred he always made you feel like you were somebody special. Now, he always made me feel like I was special, and when I was little, I was very quiet and shy, or at least that's the way I remember feeling inside. And whenever I would go anywhere, I was always kind of afraid of people. But he was always so welcoming and warm, and he'd say, "Hello there, beautiful," or "Hello there, you great gal," and he'd just catch me up in his arms and hug me, and I just always knew that he loved me, and that he cared, that was special to him, and that just is something that I'll never forget, and that'll just stay with me always. And he is my favorite uncle, and just my sweet uncle, and I'm just gonna miss him. Mary, can I speak?
Yep.
The other thing that stands out most clearly to me about Uncle Fred is that he always spoke so nicely to people, to everyone, but especially to his family, to his wife. He chose his words very carefully and very thoughtfully, and he just said just the right thing, and was very, very kind to everyone and to anyone, and treated everyone as if they were his best friend and very precious to him. And I think that's an excellent example that he set for all of us. And he was also he took his role as the big brother very, very seriously, and got everyone together and kept in contact with everybody and sent people. I mean, even I got 2 emails from him the last month. Even though I wasn't able to be at the Thanksgiving dinner, he included me in by sending me a picture of my brother, and then he sent me another email at Christmas, and I never had a chance to answer him, which I'm sorry about. But he embraced everybody and included everybody in, and that's just a really good example for me, one that I'll try to follow myself.
I have a lot of memories of Fred, and in particular, when I think back when I was a little kid, all the excitement that we used to have when he came and visited us. That is, my mom and dad and myself and my other brothers and sisters. It was always, somebody that we looked forward to seeing, and we were always excited, and it was a real occasion when he came to visit us. The one thing, though, that stands out in my mind is when, I think it was 1975, it was the last time, or next to last time, I took Dad and Mom up to Minnesota, and we stopped by in Illinois to visit Fred, which was about a little bit of a change of meeting for me. Instead of him coming to visit us, we went to visit him. We had a lot of fun in Naperville, and I can remember the pool out back of the house, and floating in the pool, and just having a real good time. It was really great. And then in later years, Fred was nice enough to come up and see us in Akron several times, and we just had great times just being with him and hearing his voice and hearing him talk, and we'll miss him very much.
Okay.
What I remember most about Uncle Fred was his kindness. Whenever I saw him, after usually a long period of time, he would greet me with, "Hey, old bean," and he'd say that in his raspy voice, and he'd throw his arm around my neck and give me a big, big hug. And he said that when he saw me, and he said that when I would leave and go back home. And I always felt his warmth and his affection and his kindness, and he was and is a real example to me in my life as the kind of person that I want to be, loving and kind. And when I thought of that verse in Corinthians that goes, "Love is patient, love is kind, it's gentle, it does not boast." I'm forgetting the words now, but Uncle Fred exemplified that verse to me, and it was one of the ways you could see that God was really in his life. It mentions kindness and gentleness and patience and self-control, and I really saw that in him, and that's what I remember most about him.
Okay.
What I remember most about Granddad was he was a great teacher. He taught me a lot of things, like when I was little. He taught me like stuff about an egg, and he taught me stuff, how to make stuff, and he taught me how to paint stuff. And I also taught him a few things, like I taught him on one of my birthdays, I went to Laser Quest and I taught him how to play. And I got a 64 for Christmas and I taught him how to play that. And then there were a few other things. I remember he was very loving. He loved me. Every time I saw him, he'd give me a big hug. And I loved him.
Well, this is Friday, January 3rd. Just came back from the services of Fred. I'm in here with Billy right now. I'm getting ready to talk a little bit about my feelings about Fred and the family itself. This morning at the services, I was very tempted to get up and say some comments, but I wasn't exactly sure how to go about it, because even though we are kind of like we were all half brothers to each other, we still had the same blood, and my sense of confidence maybe of who I am in the family was unclear. So I think what I wanted to do these few words this morning is to just let you all know that Fred, John and I were talking how Fred has impacted our life in subtle ways. I mean, the times he came and visited us, I remember, when Fred and Doris came and she was, I mean, I was a young kid, and actually, Doris, I thought you were pretty hot, so it was, I had kind of a crush on you. And then Fred was always the same unflappable person. He had the charm of a true O'Brien, and just a nice demeanor about him. But I think my message that I wanted to kind of convey to the family, Fred, I heard such wonderful eulogy by Bill, and the accolades that have been bestowed upon him are all true. I'm sure, even though Fred and I weren't that close and we knew each other that well, but where I measure a man's who he is in his family. The relationship that you and Fred had all these years of marriage, you built Doris, you build him too, just as he helped build you and mature you to who you are today. And I think it's looking at Susan and Bill, you see how they are really just byproducts. Fred became who he is as a father because of the children and who they are. So it's kind of more of a complex thing, and I'm not taking anything away from Fred, but Fred is his family, and his family is Fred, in the sense that you build each other's relationships day in and day out. And I think talking with Bill the other day on the phone before coming out here kind of really just put stock in life, because having sons and the effect hearing Bill talk as a son losing a father that he loved impacted me more than anything that's ever happened to me, I think. So I guess I'm kind of rambling, but I just want to tell all of you that we love you, and I do feel that I'm an uncle, a brother-in-law, and a friend to the family. And Fred, I will have to say one time, Fred, John and I were talking, I didn't finish my thought on that, but Fred always brought something special when he came to visit. I mean, it was the excitement of seeing him. He was older than us, and but he always accepted us who we were. And I think under unusual circumstances with two sets of brothers, with a common father, I think, and being younger, we were a little apprehensive on how we would be accepted by Fred, and he was always very gracious. He's gracious to my mother, and I'll always remember that, because I think you don't mess with a mother, and Fred just always was very, very nice to her. Actually, I just stopped rambling right now. I mean, and Fred, my prayers and thoughts are always with you.
Okay.
Well, I remember when Fred ran away. He was 14 and he ran away to go to sea on a sailing ship. And the sailing ship belonged to the de Havillands, who were friends of his, and are the current owners, or were at the time the owners, of Haviland Motor Oil, which is a Texaco product. And Fred got on the ship, and he either stowed away or they felt that he was allowed to go. But in any event, he got started and got somewhere down in South America when they found out that he wasn't supposed to be there. And my mother talked to them on the telephone, and they got Freddie started on his way home. Exactly how, I was never told. But Dimitri Boydie, one of his friends, thought it was very funny and told me that he'd gotten killed on the way home. And I told my mother, and when she found that out and found out it wasn't true, she set out to find Dimitri, but she did not harm him, although she did threaten him. And when Fred got home, he then also told Dimitri that his life would not be worth a plug nickel if he ever frightened his mother like that again. And Freddie was always very venturesome, always doing things which were different. And to give you an idea of his personality, he used to go up to the top of the roof, which was 6 stories above the ground. And there was a 7-foot space between the roofs there. And he and his friends used to take turns jumping across it. They tried to induce me to do the same thing, but I took one quick look and I said, "No way, Jose, am I going across that roof." So the point of the whole story is he was venturesome, he was eager to explore, and so much so that eventually he ran away and joined the Air Force and became a radio operator in a military air transport service. So he spent his years from 17 to 21 going from Hawaii to Japan, picking up troops and bringing them back again, and spending 4 days at Hickam Field in Hawaii, which was the Waikiki Beach. Occasionally he would go into Korea and pick up troops, and I guess he grew from boyhood to manhood in the Army that way. And those are the 2 stories, or 3 stories, that I'd like to tell you about him for today. I'll see if I can think of some more.
Well, I can remember the early years with Fred. Susie was just a baby, and I was a little bit hard to handle in those days, and they had a little apartment over in Bronxville, Fred and Doris did, and my mom felt that she had come to the end of her rope with me. It was just trouble after trouble in school, class clown, the whole routine. So she asked Doris and Fred if they would take me in. Now here's a guy who's trying to get by, and he's got a wife and a baby daughter, and he agrees to this. So I went over there and lived there for a while, and kind of got my act a little bit under control. And at that time, I think that was after I got kicked out of high school. So Fred told me, you know, supposing I help you get back into school again. I said, no, I don't want to go back to school. I hate school, and I'm going into the Navy. So he says, well, what are you going to do when you get out of the Navy? Well, I really haven't planned that far ahead what I'm going to do when I get out of the Navy. Supposing I get you back into high school. I think I only had 2 years to go. I think it was a sophomore when I got kicked out, even maybe as much as a junior. So he did. He went over to Roosevelt High School in Yonkers, and they agreed to take me, and right back into the same old way I went. Just class clown, messing up, but I did get through the high school, and then I said, it's time for me to go into the Navy. No, he said, what are you going to do when you get out of the Navy? And he just would not let up on me, whether he had some kind of faith in me, some kind of confidence, I don't know. He said, why don't you try to get into college? So I said, I don't have the grades to get into college. So I had taken architectural drafting in high school. And he said, why don't you give them a buzz and see what they can do for you? So I called up, and they said, your grades just aren't good enough to get into this college for architectural drafting. So I said to the lady, well, what course do you have there that my grades are good enough to get into? She said, food and restaurant management. I says, I'll take it. And although I wasn't quite ready for sainthood even at that point, I must say that Fred took somebody who was heading for the wrong side of the tracks and got him firmly established through something he never had to do. He was a young man himself at the time, and I guess I'll never be able to forget that. As far as I'm concerned, he's been a great example for his family. All you had to do is watch what Fred did. If you did the same things Fred did, you would always be loved and well respected. Thank you.
I just wanted to say a short little thing about Granddad. I just thought that he was a great teacher. He taught me a lot of things. And he was a very loving man. I helped him with some of his boats, and he took us fishing. And I'm gonna miss him. Yeah, I'm gonna miss him.
Back. Just want to say that, Fred, we all love you. We'll miss you. And even though we didn't spend a lot of time together, I always have fond memories of you as my brother. And the time you stayed, helped me with that project behind the house when I had that little fire, and you helped me shore up the back of the porch and give me some of your, we kind of propped the back of the porch up, and we spent 2 or 3 days together. I'll always remember that. And I want to thank you for that. And you were always very kind, and all the things your son said about you today at church was you, and I was glad I was your brother, and we were family, and I'll miss you, and we'll keep an eye on everybody here. And the special things you did when you did visit. And we look forward to having you come to Cuyahoga Falls and spending time with us and Mom. Those were good times. It's just, it was too short to have you go this quick. It was nice to see this summer at the family reunion. I thought you and Doris really, you could tell you were really in love and really respected each other and loved each other, especially when you were out dancing on the floor. I was impressed by that. And that's all I think I had to relate at this time. One of these days we'll all be together. Bye.
Actually, you do it right, Strange.
You want to shut that off, Phil?
Sure. Okay. Probably wasn't too good. You're my man. You do it.
Oh, well, what can I say about Fred? He was such a wonderful person. I remember the first time I met him. It was in 1960, I suppose. It was I just met Bing in the Christmas of 1960. And it was a blind date. It was the first blind date I had ever had. And Bing asked me to marry him the first night we went out, and I went back to my friends in the nurses' home in Columbia Presbyterian. I said, do Americans usually ask you to marry them on the first date? They said, no, they don't. This is just a line, an O'Brien line. And so we went out again several times, and then Bing took me to meet his brother. And I thought, this is strange, taking me to meet his brother, you know, because we didn't do this in Scotland, not unless you'd been going out together for a long time. So I guess it was Christmas 1960-61. And Doris and Fred hadn't been married very long, and Susie was probably 2, 3, maybe she was 3, I can't remember. They were in a flat and an apartment in Parkway Terrace, I think it was, in Yonkers, Bronxville. And the first thing that I noticed about him was how welcoming he was to me. Me, a foreigner, could hardly speak American, and I thought, what a wonderful person. And I thought, well, my goodness, if this is the family of this man, he must really be something. And all the years I've known him, which is 42 years I've been married to Bing, so I suppose I've known him 42.5 years, because Bing and I only knew each other 3 months before we were married. He's always been a gentleman and caring, and just, you couldn't ask for a better brother-in-law. And I'll miss him. You always think he's going to be there. And I'll miss him a lot, and Bing will miss him a lot. And Bing and he used to have some great little discussions, and I used to say, you know, Bing, you shouldn't be so tough on your brother. But they loved each other, and well, I think that's all I could go on all night about Fred. We used to like, they used to like coming to Delaware and sit out in the back porch drinking coffee, and we had some great times together and lovely times together, and I'll just always remember them very, very fondly. And that's about all I have to say, Bill. I'm sure he'll rewind this. Bill, I'm finished.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. It's my pleasure. I hope it was all right.
Well, it's storytelling time again. These are stories of Fred, not invented by Bing, but